I couldn't believe the words coming out of his mouth. He was a foreigner after all, a rebel, an enemy of the past. These warnings can only be a ruse to slow down my progress. Besides, if my father truly wanted me by his side, he would have come in person. My conquest of Arabia had just begun. The Nabataeans had to suffer for their treacherous ambush against our diplomatic convoy. With the gold and other precious minerals received from the Medewi, I decided to muster the finest army ever seen in Mauryan history. One day, I will have enough of them to not only be the strongest, but also the largest army to ever be commanded by a Mauryan ruler. Initially, I debated with myself whether following the road through our client state in Mauryans and suffer fatigue and attrition from the desert, or leading the army along the coastline straight past the Nabataean watchposts, the exact same road on which the ambush occurred upon. If these camel-loving warriors are willing to attack an army of such immense power like this, I will welcome the challenge. However, if this is to work, we will need camels of our own. My elephant regiment was lackluster, and horses seem to be a rarity in these lands anyway. Mercenaries will do for that. At sea, however, it will be a bit more challenging. The Medewi had told us about the Nabataeans invading into Ethiopia to assist the Egyptians. With most of their forces over there, we can probably cut them off and steal their lands for ourselves. Once our admiral has escorted Monobazus back to the mainland, he will arrive with completely new ships. During our travels north into hostile lands, a group of refugees seeking protection from their tyrannic and ruthless overlords, they sought safety by accompanying my army. Even though it will be at the expense of our fighting capabilities, I deemed it worth the risk. If you can't save the ones in need, what man would I be? As I arrived outside the port of our enemies, my scouts reported a hostile army in the process of departing their lands. My advisors and I deemed it worth the investment to fortify nearby and wait a few more days. A decision proving to change everything. Another messenger arrived. This time it wasn't Monobazus, but Bashaa of all people. I wonder what he has to say. I tried staying near the borders of Atropatene Khan for as long as possible, just in case Bindusara would need my aid. I'm sure he would with this reckless aggression he had. It didn't help that Ashoka, the faction I defeated on the field, signed a peace treaty to escape the wrath of the Emperor. He will probably claim it is because of him we have one less enemy to deal with. But that is the life of a lowborn. It is never us that receives the praise we deserve. I've simply had enough, okay? I admitted, I left. I left back just to replenish my army. Nothing more. But Bindusara couldn't wait for me. At night he snuck into Europa's Ragai in the hopes of the other armies would disperse afterwards. However, now completely surrounded, the 6,000 Persians attacked. The first assault was easily halted through the use of our superior archer regiments and infantry to pin down the enemy. Once Bindusara acknowledged the situation was under control, he took large parts of the army up on top of a massive hill bordering the town itself. He had left just a small cohort to defend the town just in case. With both the high ground and sand on our side, our barrages was superbly effective in sniping enemy forces. However, this didn't change the fact of the town being overrun by hostiles. Bindusara was the only one with the skills to turn this around. He was easy to recognize from the rest, with him being the only one not wearing a tiger cape. Plus, his exceptional sword fighting skills made him stand out from everyone on the battlefield. The Mauryan emperor gave everything he got. No way he would surrender. But as his bodyguards started to waver, he was overwhelmed by the fleeing men, tossed to the ground and trodden to death. A tragic experience that will never be forgotten. It was only the archers, who have fought under his command for several years, that stayed trying to recover his body. Through sheer will, their task was completed, routing the Persians. A victory indeed, but at what cost? So my father is dead. If only I had listened to Monobazus. If I did, things could have turned out different. This must mean I am the emperor now. This must mean what else he warned me about must be true. I have to return home. But with me already in Nabataean lands, the fastest road back would be by defeating these camel warriors, cutting through their desert, and then following the coastline the rest of the way. Right? The only comfort I can get is that Bashaa had successfully avenged my father. Such a good friend he is. Once we return home, I will have to reward him handsomely. Now he will have to resolve the rest of what technically is my war against Patkan, and how that goes I will have to learn later. If the rumors are true, I need to change things up. Keeping a grudge on what Alexander did so long ago would only lead to destruction and a two-frontal war. Catastrophe. Divide and conquer, my father taught me. If we can sway the Seleucids to think of us as an ally, the western borders should be secured. They have shown signs of this being possible before, and once they are no longer to any use for us, we will just get rid of them. But before that was even a possibility, I had to deal with our current threat in Chamutas. I captured it within the hour. But my belief of this being the only port of the Nabataeans was wrong, of course. Supposedly they had sent an expedition into Ethiopia, establishing a port called Ptolemaios Theron within Mederi lands. Our would-be friends. I called for our fleet to deal with this concern. In the meantime, I finished the deal with the Seleucids. As much as it hurts my pride and betrays my father, it had to be done. Many of the other nobles couldn't see my reasoning. So be it. Thankfully, these scum are only loyal to what can show their reflection. Honestly, I don't know why they even want that. Gods, they are hideous. Our fleet was excellent in bashing the Nabataean ships, sinking them to the bottom of the sea. Though not all of them, as an entire army made it across. A slight problem, but it was nothing our combined effort from the fleet and my elite army couldn't deal with. A minor setback that didn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, as I captured Hegra during the autumn. Petra not long after. We have basically been so efficient and ruthless in our war against Nabataea that once we captured all their core regions, they surrendered and became a client state just like mine. These desert tribes sure are easy to bend. Hegra did rebel this one time, but once it was quelled, it is time for me to abandon my mission and return home. Temporarily. Once the upcoming threat is dealt with, we can finish off these bastard Diadochi.
Ready for battle. At your command.
Hearing about the death of Bindusara meant nothing to me. He was arrogant and a fool. Too bad his son Ashoka is showing the same signs now. Maybe if I can convince him otherwise of my trustworthiness, I might be able to change that. If I can help Bashaa pacify Persia without further bloodshed, I will hit two birds with one stone. Prove my worth to the Emperor and save my people from potential genocide. As a Persian commander of an immortales legion, which is what they apparently call foreigners fighting for them, I should have the authority to make this work. Legally, I was forced to bring at least 800 Mauryans with me, but I feel more comfortable with my own people under my command. You see, it is easy to communicate that way. I must admit, Bashaa is a skilled commander. He has brought so many of my kinsmen to their knees. But with my arrival to act as a diplomat on behalf of the Mauryan Empire, I finalized a peace treaty with Ashoka and the official terms of surrender for Atropatene Khan. The best case scenario, really. It all came down to me explaining our superiority as well as our necessity to cooperate in the upcoming war that otherwise would lead to the destruction of Persian culture. Tipani, one of the former commanders of the Atropatene Khan armies, would now be the general of a new Immortales legion. The Mauryans might have killed the dream of a future Persian empire, but our culture is immortal. I have done all I can to prepare Maurya for what is to come. The second Immortales army would be stationed out near Susia, waiting for the moment to arrive. Our spies in the region even reported odd behaviors among the Bactrians. Could they be part of this too? Without Ashoka here, Bashaa was the highest commanding officer. So when what I've tried to warn everyone about came to pass, the fate of Maurya was out of my hands. Following the death of Bindusara, the eastern threat Kalinge had released a royal prisoner to fight for the throne, most likely a ploy to cause unrest and instability in Maurya. Who knows really? I wonder how Ashoka reacted to this. Nevertheless, with our nation too focused on internal matters, their apparent ally, the Bactrians, launched the attack. Dozens of warriors were marching towards our capital in the south, and Persians advancing from the north, even taking away Susia right off the bat. But the worst thing is, the Ashoka, the ones I formed a peace treaty with, betrayed us, ambushing Dipani and his Barabara. Just like the angry at Atropatene Khan for surrendering to Maurya, they rushed down the hill. Luckily for the now Mauryan commander, most of his forces were protected by trees and rough terrain, granting them enough time to form a suitable battle line. A few of the hillmen, however, had to sacrifice themselves for the general to make it out of this initial attack alive. Once ready, Barabara advanced to intercept the enemy for the chariot to bring down hell from behind. After clearing the first wave, Dipani brought the entire army up on the hill from which the attackers came from. Here they would hold a strong position for the final attack. This is a terrible situation we are in. We can only be happy Dipani survived with most of his army intact. With Ashoka, our emperor, unable to lead us through this upcoming conflict, all we can do is pray.